Well, welcome to a wee korero, a wee chat about what is the Kaihaukai, what are the expectations around this, what does this look like. We've had some chats in the reflective circles and the Q&A sessions around what this is, but we thought we'd give you a video to try and make it clear and a bit more explicit. And this goes hand in hand with a written document that we have outlining it.
Yep. And we have had this conversation before, right at the start when we talked about assessment. But just very quickly, the whole idea of Kaihaukai, and we'll probably understand this a wee bit more after the conversations that we've already had now, is kai is our indigenous word for food, or that thing that sustains us. Ho, I'll get back to you, but Kaihaukai is that whole idea of bringing food together. Now the ho in the middle comes from that idea of breath. That precious thing that we share together, that life energy, that life force that exists between people when we're breathing together. It's about not so much about the giving of the food and the sharing of the food. It's that thing that exists after the sharing of the food, of the knowledge, of the process, of our thoughts, of our breath, that thing that's between us.
So we're going to invite you to do a 10-minute presentation on your Kaihaukai or your creative project, and perhaps you can try and keep that thought in mind of this is a reflection of you. I remember in week 1 we talked about some vulnerability and sharing in that mihi whakatau, parts of yourself, and there's a space for that to enter into here as well, perhaps a little bit of vulnerability, and then feeling that space afterwards of, oh wow, I've shared this, I've spoken this out loud. And yeah, what tends to happen is when we start to speak things out loud in terms of what are our actions or what is our intention for our behaviour into the future, research shows more than not we tend to follow that a lot more than if we just keep it in to ourselves. So that's definitely one of the ideas behind doing an oral presentation, is to put it out there and declare something, to say that you're making a commitment to something or commitment to a change.
Yep. Yeah. Now, remembering right at the start of our conversations, we said we wanted you to reimagine a product or a food, a dish, or a something that you'd created in the past through either your studies or your professional life or even your personal life, something that's meaningful for you.
Yeah.
To think about that thing and to run that through the gauntlet of what we've been talking about in the last 3 weeks, and think about sustainability and think about this idea of biculturalism and what this thing would look like now. So what are you sort of hoping people to think about and reflect on, Sarah?
Yeah, that's right. We've already had some brainstorms of some great projects of community gardens or building a garden. We've got a food dish, we've got some a photograph that's going to get reimagined, a clothing garment that's going to get reimagined, an assignment that's going to get looked at again that was written in the past with new eyes, perhaps even how you open or start a meeting or how you lead a meeting, right? So these start to get some ideas of what we're exploring here. And what I'd like you to start to look at from sustainability point of view is 2 parts here. So it could be that you've got physical resources that you're using in this creative project. And so lots of questions around, well, where do these resources come from? Are they sustainable? Are there alternatives? Is there packaging? Is there waste? Where does that waste go? Thinking about a circular economy of the whole bigger picture and how that fits into a wider system. So if you can explain how your project is impacting a wider system, or the system that it sits within, that would be really helpful to give us some context, and then we can start to understand, oh yeah, this person really is understanding the wider, bigger picture. Not just, oh hey, here's me and I recycle. This is like, okay, what's the system that's creating that and then has an influence on that and is helping that. So we have sometimes concrete ingredients or resources that we're using in this project, and sometimes there's more abstract concepts as well, and we can talk about things like social capital, for example, so relationship building or the sharing of knowledge or equity and equality. You know, how is your project impacting social structures or upholding current social structures that are perhaps not so great, or reimagining or doing things in a different way. We've also looked at an economic model as well, and how to do economics in a different way. So it could be fair trade or free trade. It could be, the haves and the have-nots. You know, how is your project starting to impact on those wider economic, social, and environmental systems? And this is really what I'm inviting you to bring into your presentation, is to look at all those aspects. And if we think back to some of those sustainability models and how many different models there were and how many different aspects there were to bring in, what are the aspects that you're bringing in that is influencing your project, that's really important to you, that's really hit home and gone, I get that now. This is important for me and how I show up in my sustainable practice.
Yeah, interesting. And from my perspective, and I'm going to hold the hands up here, and you'll get this once you go through all the other material for this week. What I want you to do is have a look at the what that you've examined in the first week, the what makes up who I am. So when you think about your project that you're involved in, what is it? Why have I done those things within that project? And the example that I'll quickly use is our colleague Mairead's exploration around cutlery. What is a knife and fork? Why did it get there? What does it say about culture? I want you to also think about how another person from another cultural construct, two cultural constructs, will see this project. Oi, what's going on? Here's a third. That's post-grad stuff. Let me chuck in another one. But what that looks like from another cultural construct, and can the person from the other culture understand what it is that you're saying or where you're from with that initial articulation of your project. So in the cutlery example, if someone's not used to using cutlery, how would they approach this thing? How would they understand it? If they see you using it, how does this work? The third part of that is, how do these things fit together? If I reimagine this project that I'm working on for my own cultural construct and understanding the other, there'll be a space in the middle, an overlapping of things that creates a cultural third space that's new and bold and exciting. And that's what I want you to reimagine. How do these two narratives fit together to actually inform something new and exciting? And along with that as well, even though we're imagining this ourselves, with knowledge of who the other may be, and analysing our own cultural constructs alongside the other and finding that meeting place. Is that a real meeting place? What does it actually mean for the other person? Is it meaningful? Is that engagement actually meaningful? So when you're thinking about your project, what in the original project are the cultural constructs that inform what I've done and why I've done it? How does the other cultural construct, and you pick whoever you want with that, view that, and how do we fit these things together? As simple as that. And this is my model as well. I've got to patent this. It's all I've got.
And so we're talking about our own perspectives of what we've both been teaching and sharing. But as we move into week 3, we're hoping that you're going to see more and more links between these two subjects. And so if I can borrow your hand for a second, Ron. This is also what we are hoping that you're going to be invited to bring into the presentation is where do these subjects start to overlap?
Exactly. Where do the cultural constructs overlap with sustainability ethic? How do these two things inform each other? Actually, how are they exactly the same thing?
Yeah.
We are what we do. We are what we practice. Where does it come from? Why do we do it? What are the ramifications of that stuff?
Yes. Yes.
Easy.
And we can appreciate that we've just rambled off a whole pile of things that can feel overwhelming and full on to try and put into a 10-minute presentation. So we get that, we understand that. So we don't expect you to answer every single question that we've posed to you. This is just a rhetorical question, really, to get you to go reflect and go, whoa, I hadn't even seen it from that point of view. I don't even know what that is. And pick and choose some examples or a couple of questions that resonate with you that you can bring into the presentation. So in terms of assessment, if we're talking about assessment, we just want to see that you've been critically reflective, you've critically thought about things, and and that you're starting to see the places in the middle that we've talked about. And so don't feel too overwhelmed by trying to bring it all in. And so to try and put that into practical terms, if we try and make it as simple as possible, the beginning couple of minutes of your presentation is, what is your project? You know, why did you choose it? And what is your baseline? Who were you when you came in? What did you think back then? The middle section, which is more the chunky section of your presentation, is, and what have you learned? Right? The so what. Yeah? You know, why is that important for me? You know, answering some of those tricky questions that we've now given to you, of reimagining that project, okay, expanding that worldview. And then the last part is a wrap up. That you could even say that is like the now what, okay, which is, now what is your creative project look like? You know, share the end product. So really focus in on the learning and the growth, the transformational change, the mindset change. That's where we really want you to stay in. But give us some context with where have you come from and where have you ended up.
Easy.
Not so easy, but but we're hoping this is a creative assignment for you to look at things in a new way.
Yep. Have fun doing it.
Yes.